And welcome back to the Engage A podcast here on a beautiful Wednesday night. 1st of November, we're getting into the nitty gritty of the college football season. But new rankings came out yesterday, the college football playoff rankings, the rankings that determine, what teams are in the college football playoff. But got the first set of them yesterday. Me and Robby kind of talked about it today. A little intrigued on kind of the my thing is I'm just going to start out with it. The inconsistency of the rankings, like the criteria, I guess. Like, is it based off resume? Is it based off the eye test, power ratings, metrics? Kind of seems all over the place, because there's no consistent like rankings, especially when you get towards the bottom of these, which I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant about later. But first, we're going to start out with the top 6 teams. So number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, Georgia. Number 3, Michigan. Number 4, Florida State. Number 5, Washington. Number 6, Oregon. Robby, what is your takeaways from these rankings?
So I'm going to give you I'm going to go a little in depth. So I'm agreeing with Noah here. This is so inconsistent because, in my opinion, at least, based off the last, whatever, I don't know how long we've been doing this, since 2015. So what is that?
Yeah,
Almost 10 years. It's been 8 years, right?
I think it was since 2014.
Maybe. But it's mainly been
yeah.
resume, right? And that's what we see here. That I think that, at least when I see number 1 Ohio State, they do have the best resume. Am I mad as a Michigan fan that they're number 1? Do I feel disrespected? Absolutely not. Because if this thing is truly off resume like it has been, well, the wins are ugly, but they win, right? They got the best win in the country. They probably have the best 2 wins in the country, and some would argue. Now, then you get into number 2 Georgia, and you say, okay, yeah, well, this is an eye test team. I don't think this team has a great win like Florida State does. I think Florida State's win over LSU is a little better. I think Washington's win over Oregon's way better. But once again, then they go to the eye test. Then you go to number 3 Michigan. This is a team that also is just an eye test team. Their win is horrible. They have the worst win out of any of these teams. Now, I do believe Michigan gets this nod because I personally did not think Michigan was even going to be in the top 4. I think this is a little bit of a nod to like, hey, like you guys have been impressive. I think it's a little bit of like, hey, this is the dominance, whether it's truly because of, you're a good football team or Connor Stallions is just a wizard. Who knows? But I think it's a nod for now because
this is a question I kind of want to propose. Do you think the sign stealing investigation going on at Michigan has an impact on where they're placed in the college football playoff rankings?
Nope. Here's why. They will not let it, because then it degrades first of all, if you keep them out because of the sign stealing thing, it degrades how big the Michigan Ohio State game is. That's a first fact.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
The second thing is this is a brand. Like, this team is getting so much publicity and blah blah blah, and whether they're in good light or bad light, you got a Heisman Trophy candidate, and the College Football Playoff Committee, I don't think cares about that. I think the NCAA might care about that, and I think maybe the Big Ten does, but the College Football Playoff Committee wants the best teams. And if Michigan's going to be that best team, I think they're going to keep them in. Obviously, that bearing if they're allowed to play in their conference championship, who knows? So then you move on to number 4, Florida State. It's so weird because, once again, resume-wise, you would say Washington's here, but Washington's not looked good the past couple weeks. So then maybe it's a little bit of recency bias. But then if there's recency bias, then why is an Oregon higher? So that's just kind of where I'm at. I'm a little confused by it. Do I disagree? I think it's the right 6 teams. I don't think I would change any of them. Maybe the order of it, yes. But it's the first week. And this is how I want it to be. As a Michigan fan, I love Ohio State at number 1. I love the opportunity to beat them. I also like to see, just as a college football fan, college football analyst, how does Ohio State deal with this pressure? It's a lot of pressure being the first team at number 1, especially when you get ranked over Georgia, who, in my opinion, has been the hottest team in the country because Carson Beck is catching absolute fire. And the team looks very complete, especially without Bowers, which is weird. But in some ways, him leaving kind of opened up McConkey and Lovett to be rise into these superstars, and the defense is still showing up. So they got a test this weekend, yes. But so I love it because it presents a lot of things that we're going to get to see the true colors of this team. And like you alluded to in the first little segment in the opening, it's November 1st, man. College football season actually begins today.
Yeah, I mean, I think Georgia, when this is all said and done, if they go undefeated into SEC championship week and win the SEC championship, they're going to be the number one team. One, they're back-to-back national champions. Two, the next 3 games on their schedule is going to be a big testament to really how good this team is because they haven't really played a team, that's top 25 caliber. Yes, they played Kentucky when they were ranked, and we thought Florida might have been a little bit better, and we'll get it. I'll get into Florida later. There's a big 17 and 18 really pissed me off. But this Georgia team, yeah, they kind of messed around. They haven't really played anyone yet. But you play Missouri, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and then you finish out the season with Georgia Tech, who's actually been catching a lot of fire recently with Haynes Kane and Brent Key. And 2 big wins in the month of October against Miami and North Carolina. Those are big wins for that program.
Absolutely.
But regardless, I think Georgia's going to be, even though Michigan's got Penn State, which Penn State to me is just not a high quality team right now, personally. Maybe it's a little bit of recency bias, but they haven't really looked good.
It's been Penn State this is Penn State every single year, man. It's why James Franklin needs to go.
But I thought they looked better last year than they do this year.
But once again, can't win the big game.
Yeah. And then, I don't disagree with Ohio State at number 1 if you're looking off resume. They have 3 really good wins. Wisconsin's a really good win. I think, honestly, they look better with Locke. And, yes, they don't have Mazzulli, and Braylon Allen got banged up in that game. But, this team, it kind of reminds me of TCU last year. They kind of just win in every situation, right? They'll blow out teams. They'll come out in close games. And I like seeing a team that can play in the close games because that means you're the bet. Typically it comes down to coaching at that point. It doesn't come down to who has the better players. It does, but it doesn't. It's very schematic, trading back and forth punches.
I would argue though that in those close games, it's they just got their out pitch, like Joe Klatt likes to reference.
Right. But I'm saying they know, but you think teams would scheme it up to play too high over Marvin Harrison. He still makes play.
Can you play too high against Marvin Harrison? He is that player. But then again, you can't take that away from Ohio State because they recruited him. They use him the right way and he's performing
right. And
they find the way to get the ball in his hands.
And it's not just Marvin Harrison. This defense is really good.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's not it's just Marvin Harrison and a bunch of bums that he's
carrying. No. Abuka's just as good.
This isn't the 2018 Cavs with LeBron, okay? Funny Ohio reference.
No, he is just that. He's that next level, and he truly brings that to the team. It's why he deserves to be in the Heisman conversation until this thing is over.
I think this is also good for if Ohio State wants to make it in as a 1-loss team and they can maintain this, number 1 or even number 2 ranking. If they play really close in Ann Arbor and don't make the Big Ten championship, or they do because Michigan's not allowed to be in it, then whatever. But I think this is good news if you're an Ohio State fan.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I think the top 6 actually speaks volumes to what the College Football Playoff Committee is going to allow and kind of, accept this year.
Yeah, because I think unless both ACC and Pac-12 teams are undefeated going into this, and you kind of can't put Ohio State in there, but I think Ohio State, they're going to be the first 1-loss team to probably be in it if they do lose to Michigan. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
They were in it last year.
Remember? Yeah, they were in it. Yeah, they were in it last year. You can argue.
Oh, you're saying that this will just be the first team that gets picked as this year?
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
But I think Florida State. Yes, they got their defense has a lot of issues, but they've been playing really good recently too, and they've been taking care of their opponents. We'll see how they do in the month of November, and then Washington at 5. I like because they really just have not been playing good. If you watch this team, I think Stanford's better than what their record shows and what the metrics show, how they've been playing of recent. Arizona State, they just they beat Washington State. They're playing better recently too. So I think you're just getting the best effort out of all these teams, and Washington's kind of overlooking them. That's kind of how I look at it. Yeah. And then Oregon at 6, I really like, especially that big win over Utah. Oregon, if they go out and win it all and dominate Washington, Florida State, or Michigan, or even Georgia slips up, or Ohio State, Oregon arguably is better than Ohio State when it comes down to eye test, and they'll have the resume at that point to back it up and be in it because they'll have a win over Washington, win over Utah, all of that. So
absolutely,
we'll see. So anything else you want to take away from the top 6?
Not really. I'm happy with it. I'm happy that it's those 6 teams and there's not any other weird teams in there,
Yeah.
like
All right.
Oklahoma or
Yeah.
something,
All right.
or Texas.
Yeah. Speaking of 7 through 15 is the next thing we'll get into. So number 7 is Texas, number 8 Alabama, number 9 Oklahoma, number 10 Ole Miss, 11 Penn State, 12 Missouri, 13 Louisville, 14 LSU, and then 15 Notre Dame. How do you look at this section of the college football playoff?
So Alabama, as high as they are, I think kind of speaks volumes to the fact that maybe this committee. Some people view it and they say, "Well, this committee hates Alabama; they deserve to be higher." And I disagree. It's like, why do they deserve to be higher than Texas? They lost
Yeah,
to
they don't
Texas.
deserve, but this is the weird thing. If you're going strictly off resume and head to head, I mean, I know Texas beat Kansas and Oklahoma lost to Kansas, but in the head to head game, both of you have one loss. Texas and Oklahoma played each other. I get it. I personally think Texas is better than Oklahoma. I'm not disagreeing, of course, with Malik Murphy. I don't really know. We'll see how they play this weekend against
Just gonna
Kansas.
say that it's so tough now to like keep this Texas team in the conversation. Like you have to respect what they've done up to this point, but without Quinn Ewers, this is a much different team.
Yeah, but
Just
I mean,
like
I think they assume Quinn Ewers is going to come back sooner and later, and they're not going to
yeah,
they're not going to discredit them for them losing their quarterback because they haven't slipped up in a game yet.
right.
So,
And I definitely think that Quinn Ewers is going to make that track back. I mentioned it a few episodes ago. The competitive nature of Quinn Ewers is going to be if they like I said, if a team slips up and now the opportunity's right back, the door's right back open for them to make the playoff. Like you fully expect this man to come back and just make a name for himself and just lift this Texas team to the highest place that he could possibly get them. Obviously, he can't control other teams. They don't control their own destiny, my point. 10 Ole Miss, 11 Penn State, 12 Missouri. I'm not mad at it, but at the same time, with LSU at 14, I get it. There's 2 losses on the schedule. There isn't as many losses.
yeah, but you can't rank
But
them. You can't rank them ahead of Ole Miss, though. Like that's a head to head win right there, and
correct.
you can't.
But
If
could you
if
argue?
LSU beats Alabama this weekend, then rank them over Ole Miss. But
Yeah, for sure. And I think if weird things happen, LSU will be the first 2-loss team to ever make this thing.
yeah, well, there's a legitimate path, right? Because they will beat if they do beat Alabama, which we'll get into our topics tomorrow in that regards. But I mean, LSU, they have an easy road after Alabama. So if they can get that win in Bryant-Denny, you have Florida, which I mean, it's not easy, but like, it's definitely manageable. You'll play Florida, Georgia State, which is a really good Sun Belt team, and then Texas A&M, which that game's always a thriller, like we said on Monday's show. And then you'll play probably Georgia in the SEC championship. And if you have wins over Georgia and Alabama, like
how do you argue against
and they
that,
have
right?
and they'll beat Missouri too. I know you have the losses to Ole Miss, but like those are earlier in the season. You lose to Florida State, who might be in the college football playoff at that point. So
Right. Exactly. So I don't know. Once again, I argue it because I don't see any consistency in how they're doing these rankings because I look and I'm like, okay, like if you want to take away and be like, let's just put them head to head, right? Like who would win against who? You would argue, at least I would, that Penn State could not stop LSU's offense.
and I mean,
Even Missouri, I think, wouldn't do fare well against LSU. So it's interesting to look at. I don't
Missouri
know about
played LSU and LSU torched Missouri's secondary. So, and I think that we could see Carson Beck go for a big game against Missouri because I don't really know how good Missouri's run defense is also. I don't think they're that good of a team defensively.
No.
But.
And so it's just the inconsistency is once again, it's hard for me to judge this, but I'm just giving my opinion and how I'm trying to, decipher all of this and take all this in. But I'm very curious to watch next week after we finally see the results of the Alabama LSU game. Penn State could slip up. I believe they're the team playing. Are they playing Rutgers this week, or is it Ohio State?
Ohio State plays Rutgers this week,
which is everyone's freaking out about, which I don't understand.
I mean,
and then
It's a bad match. Well, we'll get into that.
It is a bad matchup. It's just this thing could get turned on its head. This thing could get turned on its head super fast, and that's the beauty of it. That's why I love the college football playoff rankings over the AP Top 25, because I feel like they do take a better in depth, and there does become logic with this thing as the weeks move on.
Right. And I mean, we also see a lot more movement too when like a team has a great result. That is the one thing that I do like with the college football playoff. Or if it's a bad result, then they'll punish them. That's something that the AP Top 25 sometimes doesn't do. But no, I was looking at something between Notre Dame and LSU. I'm like, okay, who's the better 2-loss team? LSU has the better win necessarily, and Notre Dame, and they have, I feel like the losses are better, like quality loss wise. Like, I mean, a shootout against Ole Miss and then a loss to Florida State, 2 teams that are in the top 10. Notre Dame's losses, yes, to Ohio State, but you also lose to Louisville, who's a little bit more down in the rankings, still ranked ahead of you, but also your wins are just, I mean, what, USC and Duke are your best wins.
Like, it's just weird. These 2-loss teams is like, there's a path for. Is it?
No, Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame has a path.
Oddly enough, I would agree with the Notre Dame thing, and this is going to sound crazy, but just hear me out. There is a path for USC.
Yeah, but
imagine if they beat both Oregon and Washington.
I mean, yeah, but
how the heck do you
would
win
have
the Pac-12?
Yeah, that's literally, and how logic wise,
right? I mean, there's a report out about Lincoln Riley calling Caleb Williams and say, "Hey, man, you've had a weird but amazing career. Why not add this to the resume of weird things you've done? And let's go in as the first 2
Yeah, but that means USC would have to play defense and like
right. Yeah, no, I'm just saying there's a path.
Close.
There's a path.
It'll be interesting. I don't know. I think USC finishes like 8-4 personally, but
I don't know if Caleb Williams ever gets another top 10 win in his career.
I don't know. I'm really glad to see Louisville at 13 because they still have a path technically. If they go out and finish the ACC strong, that Pitt loss will kill them. But I mean,
that's the problem with those teams, man. It's like you're on absolute fire. You're walking on coals your entire season.
Well, because when you're a team of Louisville's caliber, where yes, you have talent to beat the big programs, especially defensively. Like this team, like statistically, is one of the best defensive teams like in the country, and then offensively, they have an inconsistent pass game, and then their run game is actually very solid. Shout out Jawar Jordan. He ain't gonna win the Heisman. If there was a running back to win the Heisman, it'd be Ollie Gordon. But no, like I'm glad to see Louisville where they're at. I think they're like, it sucks because Duke's not that good of a team anymore, and Clemson's also kind of struggled a lot recent in this year, especially. Even though Clemson like literally should be better. If you look at the metrics, like Clemson's a way better team than their record shows. It's just the turnovers, which that does matter, but like. If you were to do a simulation of like Clemson with this roster against everyone else, like they would probably be 6-2, 7-1, not 4-4. Like when you look at it from a metrics perspective,
it's everyone on the sidelines, and it's there's talent. Like I'll bet you Cade leaves, and Cade actually turns out to have a good NFL career.
I don't know. It's gonna be like Clemson's gonna be one of those teams that like it's gonna be very intriguing what they do in the offseason, and if they. How much staff change there is.
Yep.
So, but I mean, other than that, like I really like, I'm not pissed at any of these rankings. I'm a little confused through the 7 through 9 and kind of what their process is on that. But like, other than that, like I don't mind Ole Miss at 10. I don't mind Penn State at 11, Missouri at 12. I don't mind any of that, to be honest.
No, not at all.
So, and then let's get into the last part of this, 16 through 25. Oregon State at 16, 17 Tennessee, 18 Utah, 19 UCLA, 20 USC, 21 Kansas, 22 Oklahoma State, 23 Kansas State, 24 Tulane, and 25 Air Force. I'm going to jump into something right away. I don't know how Tennessee is ranked above Utah. That just pisses me off. They have a common opponent in Florida. Guess what? Tennessee lost. Utah won. Utah has 2 top 25 wins against UCLA and USC, the 2 teams ranked behind them. Does Tennessee have a top 25 win? No. So it kind of just, it really like, and just kind of pisses me off that literally.
It's recency bias.
Yeah, but like Utah, yeah, they did get killed by Oregon. Guess what? If you watch that Tennessee-Florida game, yeah, sure, it was only 29-16, but Tennessee got housed. Like they were down 23-7.
I'm
Like,
not, but once again, it's just the only explanation is recency bias, but it's
but
inconsistent.
you barely beat Kentucky, and is that team really that good? Like,
I'm not arguing with you, man. I don't understand it, but once again, they're obvious.
I could tell you the reason why they're at 17.
What is it?
The logo that's on their jerseys, SEC. You know,
yeah, they got to make these matchups interesting at the end of the season.
I was kind of surprised that they didn't drop Oregon State a little bit more, but
yeah, it's a bad loss. It's a bad loss that they took, but you hope and expect this team to bounce back.
But I think we're gonna see Arizona at the end if they continue to keep playing the way they've been. We're gonna see them. You're gonna see them. They're gonna be an 8-4, 9-3 team that's gonna end up being in here. And I mean, the 21, 22, and 23, like Oklahoma State beats Kansas, and the only argument against Oklahoma State is they lost to South Alabama, which is a bad loss. Don't get me wrong, but they're not the same team that they were. They're on a 4-game winning streak right now. Ollie Gordon had 999 total yards of offense in the month of October. Like this kid is playing really good. Alan Bowman, he's a solid college quarterback. Like he's not going to be anything special at the next level. He probably won't even make it to the next level. Maybe the USFL or the XFL, or the are they still doing like that?
The merger.
Johnny. Well, no, not that. Remember that Johnny Manziel league that they had?
Yeah, the Arena League kind of.
Yeah, maybe he's an Arena Football League legend.
He's probably a CFL guy too. Yeah. He could be that.
Yeah,
this guy is not an NFL guy.
Yeah, he's not going to be playing at the highest, but he could be in a professional league, being solid somewhere.
Now, Ollie Gordon, that kid's on this path to.
Yeah, like I mean, I don't know. I'm just like I get it because Kansas just did get a huge win, and if you go off the wins that they've had, like yes, Kansas has the better win, but I mean Oklahoma State's gonna have a chance to prove themselves, and they also beat Kansas State too. Who guess what's another top 25 team. So I mean Oklahoma State's also kind of played close with everybody too. Like I mean they lost to Iowa State, but Iowa State's a good loss.
We have to keep giving them respect because if they win against Oklahoma, they're the #1 team in the Pac-12.
You mean Big 12?
Or Big 12, sorry.
Pac-12.
Big 12, Pac-12. Who knows?
I mean, they're basically, a lot of teams from the Pac-12 are joining the Big 12. So
yeah, there you go. That's where my brain went.
Battle of the 12s. No, I mean, other than that, like, I mean, Kansas State at 23, I see it. I mean, a close loss to Missouri and then a loss to Oklahoma State. They've kind of been on the right track since that loss to Oklahoma State. I mean, they're going to have a big game this weekend too against Texas. So, I mean, we're starting to, I think it's honestly to get ratings for a lot of these games. That's my personal opinion.
Absolutely.
That's why we see Tulane and Air Force at 24 and 25. And I don't know why James Madison's not ranked, but I mean,
dude, what does everybody have against
because I don't know if they're ranked or not because of they are not going to be able to play. They wouldn't be able to play in a bowl game regardless. So
who cares? We were just looking. Okay, for all of you who aren't like big statistician people, like stat people, this team has 3 guys that are on the top 50 for sacks. They have a guy who's got 5.5 sacks. They got a guy who's got 6 sacks, which puts him in the top 20. And they have the country-leading sack guy with 15.5 sacks.
Which is ridiculous.
The next guy's got 12.
Yeah,
James Madison, you got some dogs. I don't care who you play.
No, like James Madison, like Jordan McLeod's a solid quarterback too. Like if you watch James Madison play, they're almost like they kind of remind me of not like Michigan, but like an orchestra like kind of team just through the group of 5. Like that's just what they are.
This is a team that's going to have guys. It's going to be hard to keep playing at this level because all the big schools are going to come down to those schools and be like, okay, so I don't know the guy's name. I should have remembered it, but the guy who's got 15.5 sacks, like
I could pull it up real quick. I think his last name's Green.
I think you're right. Give me that name so we can shout this man out.
Jalen Green, yeah.
Jalen Green. There's all Power Fives, all huge schools are going to be calling him.
I mean, he's
saying,
like, it's going to be he's kind of like the Josiah Stewart. Josiah Stewart was very solid at Coastal Carolina. And now he's not a starter at Michigan, but he's playing in the rotation a
right,
lot.
he's
And
probably got 4 sacks this year.
He's an effective player. Like he plays the matter. And that's sometimes not a bad thing if you want to get drafted, because if you show that like you don't have to be an absolute stud or whatever, but you can go into a situation and be productive with the amount of snaps given. Like
and a lot of these guys on the edge too are dealing with a ton of injuries with the production, with the type of load management that teams like Michigan are giving their D linemen. They're all coming into the NFL not beat up too much, so then you can actually use them a lot in their rookie years and not have to worry about the injuries.
They're like rotation. Like I don't know if a lot of people do like that watch college football like very in depth and like analytically, but if you look at it, like a lot of these colleges, and this is all levels of football, you rotate defensive linemen consistently.
Have to.
Like I remember that defensive tackle that went off for the Lions on Monday. Like he made a sack and then got subbed out because guess what? Rotation matters, and because I mean defensive linemen, they're big boys. You can't play 100% of the snaps unless like you're a physical freak like Aiden Hutchinson or
Travis Hunter.
Yeah, exactly. Like it. Well, even just on the defensive side, like you're on the defensive line, like. Typically ends can play more than tackles, but still, like you'll always see someone rotating in and someone ready on the sideline to go in. So, like, there's a reason why Jordan Davis only played like 25% of snaps in college because he literally just didn't have the conditioning for it. So, So yeah, I mean that's my thoughts. To be honest, I don't like or dislike these rankings.
I don't read too hard into them because they are the first ones. And we have just now started to see the separation. It'd be one thing if we saw the separation in like early October and we're still seeing teams that are not deserving of being whatever, top 6, top 10, whatever. But I don't think we're seeing that. I think they're in a tougher place because once again,
well, it also just helps that like
of
other than like
teams.
Michigan, to be honest, no one's really looked. I mean, Ohio State's looked good and they got the big wins, and that's why like these just like after the 4, like after like the 5, 6, like after the top 6, like no one's really looked that good. Like they all looked completely flawed in their own different ways. So
and we're starting to see Georgia emerge, which is scary because
I mean they kind of have to, because if they're gonna get through this. I mean, I don't know, because I think they'll kill Tennessee personally, because Tennessee's kind of like they're solid defensively, but they're not going to be able to do.
I think they kill everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Ole Miss is such a weird team, man. Like,
I don't know.
I think if anyone were to beat
doubt Georgia, dude, because I truly think this.
I think if they were to get caught, though, it would be this weekend. Yeah,
Missouri has the talent offensively to do it.
They have the talent on the outside. It's just I wish Brady Cook was better, man. Like if you put like a
John Reese Plumlee,
even like a Jaden like obviously John Reese Plumlee, but Jaden Daniels or like well. I'm just saying. Well, I mean, I don't know. Jaden Daniels might arguably have a better receiving core, but if you did put a good quarterback in there and gave him the weapons, like what's a group of 5 court? Like if you put like a Daquan Finn again in this fucking,
Frank, that'd be kind of wild,
dude. I don't know what you would do as a play caller personally, but
even Grayson McCall.
Yeah, like just or the Liberty quarterback too. He's a really good kid as well. So I mean. It's whatever. I mean, they're probably not going to win because Missouri has not played a pass defense of Georgia's caliber, nothing even close. So, and I mean, we'll get to that tomorrow. And this is kind of just like, teasing, like, a little bit of blue balling for tomorrow, but that's what it is.
It is.
And, yeah, we're excited to break down the games because this is actually a pretty good college football weekend. So, and we're gonna learn a lot. And I finally don't have anything on a Saturday for once, so I'm gonna be able to sit in this nice, beautiful chair with my laptop here, TV there, another monitor there. So I'll be able to watch all 3 games going on, and it's gonna be a fun weekend, man. Like I'm excited to sit down and watch college football because when I've gone to other weekends and stuff, I'm like, man, all these games fucking suck. Like I don't want to watch any of them. So, but like I think this weekend, like I think we're going to see a lot. And I think it's going to prove a lot, even with like the lower rated matchups, like how Ohio State performs against or not
Rutgers.
Rutgers. It's okay.
It's been a day.
Yeah. Shout out to Mac Action this week, though. Central Michigan got a nice win yesterday. Toledo as well.
We got Mac Action on right now, actually.
Maybe
it's
both the matchups suck. So like
Hey, let's cut it out. It's the Mac.
Well, dude, it's 2 1-7 teams. Oh, Akron
takes down
Akron. Okay. A little off topic from the college football playoff rankings, and this is me and Robby kind of just BSing. Akron, if they had DJ Irons, they'd be a lot better.
Yep.
Shout out to Bowling Green, man. They're gonna make a bowl game.
Yeah, but you barely beat Ball State. But once again, it's not. It's cool it down on the action, baby. It's just good football.
Tomorrow, I'm excited to see Troy. And Troy's a really good. Like, if you really like a solid fundamental defensive team, like watch Troy.
Watch Troy and watch Toledo, man. Penny Boone is, I believe, a top 3 in terms of yards in the country, and Daquan Finn is just highlight reel football. If anyone asks me why is MAC football fun to watch? Why should I tune in on a Tuesday? It's to watch guys like Daquan Finn. He's the epitome of just like small school baller.
Yeah.
And could make a name for himself. Who knows? We've seen it before with guys like Edelman.
It's going to be like when I'm looking at it, like not even just like looking at the top games, just looking at like, the overall schedule on Saturday.
Oh, dude, it's loaded.
It's going to be a good weekend for sure. I mean, you have games like Kansas, Iowa State. Like that's a really good game.
Right.
So
Texas, Kansas State, like Texas, like freaking Malik Murphy's.
No, but like even like Miami, NC State, like I'll probably be watching that if there's nothing else good on. Ooh, Oregon State plays Colorado. I'm excited to see. And UCLA plays Arizona. Man, dude, I'll be up till like 2:00 in the morning. Holy.
Heck yeah, man.
All right, we will get into the big games tomorrow. Upset picks as always. Robby both went 1-on-1 last week. Hopefully, we don't have a common upset pick. I
already got them, so it's just I'm excited.
I'm looking at one right now.
I got one,
and I need to find out my other one. And there might be more. There might be more than 2. Technically, there's no limit on how many upsets you do want to pick. So, all right. If you're just listening to us for the first time, please subscribe, drop a follow if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. Look at the socials in the description. Holy crap. This is why you don't record at 11 at night, guys.
No.
So I think me and Robby will probably be recording actually around the same time on Friday or Thursday. But
wow, this guy, man.
Yeah, it's
like this guy. Never mind. It was because we had school in the morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we had school. There was no.
Yesterday was not Halloween, and yesterday Halloween was not.
There's no other circumstantial interferences to say
absolutely not.
But no, subscribe, drop a follow, leave a like, share with your mom, dad, dog, sister, brother, even your grandparents, man. Like they might want to listen instead. Yeah. Thank you for listening. If you want to follow our socials, links will be the @ will be in the description to me and Robby's Twitters and also the Engage 8 socials. And make sure you follow TikTok as well, because we're pushing out this real content like crazy. So thank you for listening.